What's up? What's up? What is up? Another Friday, another opportunity to get together and record the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, where sports, business, entertainment collide. We in the building, baby. Spring is about to be sprung. March is in full effect. So we got the whole crew in the building. Stick with me and I'll explain why I'm dressed the way that I'm dressed. But today's episode is going to be
laundry day at the Ball Hawk Sports Talk.
That could be argued with any of my outfits in the ensemble.
Love
it
you,
looks
B.
like laundry day. But today it looks more like laundry day, and we're going to tell you why. Today's episode is going by the title of Report Card Day. For any of us who've ever been in the school system, for any of us who have parents that are serious about their grades, you know Report Card Day can create some animosity. It can create some angst. It can create some drama in the household. So stick with us. We're going to talk about the drama, the angst, the animosity, some of the tension that is building in sports, business, and entertainment throughout the week. You know how we do it. We do it rough, rugged, and raw. We are the crew. So make sure you stay tuned. With no further ado, boys and girls, cats and rats, dogs and frogs, pull up a seat. Make sure you got a coffee. Make sure you fasten your seatbelt because the Ball Hawk Sports Talk is coming to you. So let's go. Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Because this is the Ball Hawk Sports Talk with your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hog, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're going to give it to you rough, rugged, and raw. So come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go, 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 go. In the building, back in this thing like we never left. You know what it is. The whole crew is in the building today, man. It always feels good when all three of us are here. So let me make sure I make the proper introduction before we tee up the show. We are starting with the Middle Coast, the one that is fresh off the lake, the one that in March feels like Antarctica. But yet this windy city has produced the man, the myth, the legend, thou who shall be known and recognized internationally and galactically as Intergalactically, my bad.
Thank you.
Yeah, my bad. The Big Flow Show is in the building. What's up, my brother?
What's good, America? I feel like Voltron is back together again. The three of us, we've been kind of sparse. Either me or Eve that had a problem. I think you've been the stalwart, but me or Eve had issues trying to make this work. So now that Voltron's back together, we're gonna try to give you guys a great show.
Voltron together is back in the building.
I hope we don't get edited for that. Are you allowed to say Voltron? I know last week.
Voltron,
I had to say last week. Apologize to everybody. When we used the 8 Mile track, it pulled us off. But I'm kind of flattered, to be honest with you. I always wanted to be copyrighted. I want someone to be like, man, we feel like you guys are getting too much fame off us, but it's because of you guys, millions of followers we have out here, hundreds of thousands, multi-hundreds, whatever you want to call it. It worked out, man. So I appreciate it. I'm honored that we got copyrighted
in the building. And just so you guys know, man, last week we did a tribute show to one of our fallen brothers from Notre Dame, my classmate Mario Strayhorn from Cincinnati, Ohio. They laid him to rest on Saturday. So we did a show called A Hot 16, a tribute to Stray last week. So we did the 8 Mile thing as really sort of an ancillary piece, a side piece to the show itself. I got to figure out how to go in and just erase that a minute 30 or whatever of the show itself so we can make sure people hear that show. It was a great show, a great tribute. So, with this intellectual property stuff is very interesting. Lawyers get in the room and mess things up. But I will make sure that you guys get access to that show because it was a dope show. So we'll figure out how to do that. We got to play around with the IP. Not only do we have from the Middle Coast the Big Flow Show, but from the East Coast, our man who's been traveling, our man who's been doing big deals, our man who understands and consumes and thrives in not only the brand space and the marketing space, but he thrives here in terms of the production space. You know who he is. He's from Beantown. He's not wearing anything that says Boston, but it's in his heart. It is none other than Ellis, the producer, ETP. What's up, my brother?
What's going on? I've just been spending a whole lot of time listening to some De La Soul. They finally got on streaming platforms for the first time. haven't been able to really listen to their music since before we had streaming. So that's what's held me up.
Yeah,
I haven't had anything important to do. I just been listening to De La Soul and lost track of time for the past week or so.
Hey man, I tell you what, if the intellectual property bandits weren't so aggressive, we could play some De La Soul, but I digress. Great music, great for the soul. And now we got to get into the show because love have our man ATP back. Love seeing the Big Flow show come from the Middle Coast. But today, man, I got to explain why I look like this. Y'all used to seeing me sometimes in a shirt and tie or maybe just a hoodie, but today I've combined forces. I've combined forces today and decided to wear what I'm wearing because today is report card day. And my son, while I love him to death, brought home some grades that I thought were less than representative of what we would expect from him in this household, what we respect from him just as a student, as a pupil, as a savant in so many areas. We thought that his grades should reflect that, and it didn't happen. So I am dressed this way because I had to bring out the inner Betty Brown in me, right? My mom would make sure, she was an educator, same school system for 41 years. And if we bought anything less than an A, home on our report card, it could be deadly. So I got good grades, not because I saw myself as one day being a lawyer and one day wanting the NBA. I got good grades as a survival mechanism in order to breathe.
Sometimes that's all you need is motivation. That's all you need,
right? But things have changed, man. I can only bring out my inner Betty Brown on this show with the glasses, and my mom would show up, man, in some sweats and pumps and all kind of stuff on report card day. She's like, I don't care how I look, it's about the results. We got to talk about what's going on. And today I have to bring out my inner Betty Brown because you can't threaten these kids no more. You can't spank no kid. And if you spank a child, you better not talk about doing it
on your podcast.
On your podcast.
Friday morning. Dressed like his uncle.
In 2020. Yeah. So you can't do it anymore. So I got to bring out my inner Betty Brown here. So I'm dressed any kind of way because I'm about to go in this school and act up because the expectations ain't being met. And I need to be communicating with this teacher. But all of us have this moment. Some of us are students. You brought that report card home and you tried to hide it. You tried to throw it away. You tried to pretend like something didn't exist. Some of y'all might be risque enough to even try to change one of the grades. Report card day is a moment of honesty. It is that point where you are going to get on paper a glimpse, a shot, a sort of a review of what you've done. Unfortunately for my son, the review does not look great, but we're going to go ahead and address that today as I walk in there looking any kind of way. But in sports, business, and entertainment, it's time for a report card day as well. It's time for us to have an assessment. It's time for us to do a review. It's time for us to give some grades to people in this sports, business, and entertainment world. And we done talking. Those are the last words that came out of my mouth as I dropped my son off to school today. I said, boy, your only payment to live in this house is to meet the expectations academically that have been set for you. And you can say all you want that you care and that you're working hard, but your actions are speaking louder than your words. And in today's sports, business, and entertainment, a lot of people's actions have spoken a lot louder than their words. I'm talking about a lot louder than their words. And how dare we not start with NFL free agency space? Because a report card in this space is basically, what are they willing to offer you? What are they willing to give you? What kind of deals are they making? Are they going to franchise tag you? And in some cases, a non-exclusive franchise tag. Going to get to that, Mr. Lamar Jackson. But in today's free agency, the NFL free agent space gave us some examples. It gave us some grades. Let's start with this Daniel Jones guy. And I don't know what subject this is. I want to call this social studies because this has to be an entire study of what's going on with the Giants. There's no way in the world that I thought the Giants were going to back up the brink truck and pay Daniel Jones. Yes, that guy, Daniel son. Thou had look, I get to watch a lot of New York Giants football because I live in this area. I know a lot of New York Giants fans, that are trying to grapple with their quarterback situation. And that Daniel Jones, Danielson, just got paid $160 million over 4 years. He has a $36 million signing bonus, guaranteed money. He's got $82 million guaranteed dollars for being what I would say a very average. Let's call him a C, maybe C plus. If you coming from some rosy lenses, you might give him a B minus. But Daniel Jones is going to get paid. The New York Giants have decided that that is their quarterback. That is who they're going to entrust this large contract with. This is the quarterback that they're going to take into the foreseeable future. Then you got Derek Carr. The Giants went ahead and paid Daniel Jones. The Saints decided to step up and pay Derek Carr. That Derek Carr, who has put up some numbers, but hasn't done much when it comes to playoffs, hasn't done much in terms of winning and cementing an organization. Hence, the Raiders were willing to move on. That Derek Carr got paid $150 million over 4 years, $28.5 million signing bonus, $100 million guaranteed by the New Orleans Saints. Then you got Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is so highly coveted that the New York Jets packed everybody into the doggone plane. The head coach, offense coordinator, defense coordinator, special team coach, they got the assistant trainer to the assistant trainer on that doggone plane to try to woo Aaron Rodgers to sign with the New York Jets. And then you got Lamar Jackson. That Lamar Jackson, who has gone back and forth with that organization, the Baltimore Ravens, for at least 2 years. Every offseason, we are having this conversation about whether or not they're going to finally pay him. The Baltimore Ravens left that suspense for a while in the air. They announced, let us know, by way of them tagging him on a non-exclusive franchise tag where he stands with the organization. Let's go in order here, guys, because it's report card day. And something in the air about the report cards seems a little wild. I don't know. Daniel Jones, to me, I think that was you could have done better. You could have done significantly better. It reeks of and I won't even say Joe Flacco, because the Ravens made that mistake before of waiting too long to pay somebody, and they overpaid Joe Flacco. So I won't even use Joe Flacco. But Daniel Jones getting that contract seemed a little out of the ordinary for me, based on his productivity or lack thereof. I'll start with you on this one, ETP. What do you think about Daniel Jones getting the bag, man? He got the bag by the New York Giants, right? And because these contracts are happening in the same time, right? In real time, this is happening at the moment that we're hearing about this non-exclusive tag the Baltimore Ravens are giving Lamar Jackson, former NFL MVP, the cheat code, someone that you got to create an entire offense around. The exact same time we hear that they're not going to pay him, or they're going to test the market, rather. We'll get to that. We hear about Daniel Jones getting the bag. What say you? Did the Giants get it right by making sure that they have their young quarterback locked in over the next several years, or not?
For their sake, I hope that he pans out. I mean, I think what's interesting is the guaranteed money. I mean, the Deshaun Watson effect, or just in general, the move towards increasing guaranteed money is clearly, Daniel Jones is a beneficiary of the changes in the contract structures. I think it's a little ambitious. They made it to the playoffs for the first time. I think it's really like the first full season he played for the most part. Mm-hmm. It's a big bet, but they seem to have found their coach. They seem to have found their quarterback. The organization is comfortable with it. They went to the postseason. They're trying to lock in and kind of solidify things in ways. They got. It's funny that they signed Daniel Jones before they signed Barkley, but But at the same time, Saquon's been injured a lot of the time that he's been on the team. So
I think Ezekiel Elliott has messed it up for every
Everybody.
running back for at least the next 5 years, right? They paid him $15 million a year, and that didn't work out so well.
Yeah, I mean, running backs over the past, I guess 10 plus years have become way less reliable. And, there was a period where it was like, oh, you have to have 2 to 3 backs, on your squad and, have them do rotations. And then now we've kind of come back to having a lead back. But ultimately, I think the Giants are just trying to start to build something. And it sounds like it's more, I think, the confidence in their coach, which seems like isn't a bad idea. Dabo seems to be pretty solid, but I don't know that it has a connection to the Lamar Jackson scenario, because that's a totally different conversation. And also a lot more money that's under discussion. I think it sounds like what the Giants are paying Daniel Jones is what the Ravens were willing to pay Lamar Jackson. So that should probably put into perspective how far apart they are in terms of the negotiation and how potentially insulting, I guess, that offer could be to a former MVP who's still younger than the quarterback that won the national championship in college this year.
Still got a lot of time to play, a lot of years ahead of him. But let's go piece by piece, because I see what's up, Glass Bart. And like we say every week, humbly, please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anyone that you know. Please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and the podcast. But one of our live audience members, who I happen to know is a Giants fan, and he admits that publicly here on the show in the comment. You're a brave soul, bro. You're a brave soul. But Glass Bart is talking about the ownership deciding that DJ, first of all, I didn't even know he had a nickname. I know Daniel Jones breaks down the DJ. I didn't know he had a nickname. But that DJ is their guy. I'm struggling with what I'm struggling with is this, because I look at those numbers, $160 million over 4 years. And I ain't no mathematician, but that's $40 million a year. $36 million in the signing bonus means he got basically 40 up front just for signing his name right. Even if he put DJ, something on that doggone page gave him an immediate $40 million a year. $82 million guarantee. Now, I watch more New York Giants football than I really want to, because I'm cheap. I ain't bought the package, the ticket, whatever it's called, NFL ticket. I'm too cheap for that. So I watch local games until I go to the bar. And there is nothing that I have seen in that rookie contract, watching him play in all those local games, because I'm too cheap to buy anything else. There's nothing that I have seen that says $82 million guaranteed dollars. I ain't seen that. Am I tripping? Big Flow Show, I go to you, because as a Chicago Bears fan, y'all been pretty pedestrian at the quarterback position for a while now. And, that was a shot. Wanted to take one.
I'll take them. We deserve all the shots we get. We got the first pick in the draft. You can't get proud when you got the first pick. You can't get proud when you got the first pick.
But your first pick might not be spent on the quarterback. That's going to be interesting to see what they do.
All I'm saying is I can't sit up here and act offended when we have the first pick. That means everybody did better than we did.
Everybody did.
There's
no
lottery
$82 million. Daniel Jones. What say you?
Here's my problem.
$82 million guaranteed, bro.
Okay, so if you look at the way they typically do guys, unless it's somebody who's really done something for the program and they want to reward them, sometimes you have payback contracts. You see them, they'll say, all right, we give him a little bit more, but you know what? We really were shitting on him before, and he was a good guy. Typically, they pay you what they have to pay you. Mm-hmm. And so to me, the thing that throws me off with this is like, okay, so if you didn't give him that bread, what was he going to do? Test the market? What has he done that? Like if Lamar, let's take him with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, you franchise tag him, you put him out there to the streets and say, hey, see if you can find something better. Right. Otherwise, we'll do this. You give him all this hard time. But then you got Daniel Jones. It's like, what's your risk factor here? If you didn't give him this bread and you guys sat there and was he out of contract? I can't remember. Is he all the way out, or was this
they renegotiated his rookie deal? He's still under his rookie contract.
Yeah, so why did you keep playing his rookie deal? What did he do what did you think he was going to do? Hold out? I mean, to be honest, I didn't look at these stats. But as Mark said, he's got less touchdowns in his game played. You telling me that I think $1 million a touchdown is a fair bar to me. $40 million. You're gonna give me? I mean, I definitely don't think you should deserve $3 million per touchdown.
So
Some
do
of
you
those
think
are quarterback? Some of those are.
he's got youth on his side to sort of defend the Giants in this case? He's got youth on his side.
They could have got Aaron Rodgers for that.
All right, so let's go in between. Let's go Derek Carr. Because the Saints just said 150 million over 4 years. He's getting 28.5 million in signing bonus, and he's guaranteed 100 million. Now, the guarantees part is this what we're gonna get to. This is y'all bear with us. We're gonna get to a conversation within this conversation, but I just want to get your natural reaction in terms of what do we score them? It's report card day, and for the Giants, what do they get on that? Because when I look at Daniel Jones or DJ. When I look at DJ, I look at someone that we still got to kick the tires on this. We still got to see where we are, and if I can get away with kicking the can down the road a little bit longer, at least one more year, I'm gonna do it. Meanwhile, the Ravens kicked the can down the road 2 years now, 2 subsequent years in off seasons. And yet, every single time you watch Lamar Jackson, they're a different team with Lamar Jackson. Period. They have a chance to beat anybody with Lamar Jackson. They're a Super Bowl contender potentially with Lamar Jackson. And we saw while Huntley did step in and play well, it was the difference between Baltimore winning and losing in that playoff game was Lamar Jackson or the lack thereof. And so I'm just struggling to understand what do you give the Giants grade wise?
Okay. So I'm a child of the 70s, right? I just turned 50. Y'all know that stuff. So I like to think of it as when you came home report card day and you walked home, you with your buddies. Hey, man, how'd you do? Said, man, my dad's gonna be a little disappointed, man. I didn't get my English grade up the way I wanted to, but he's gonna be mad. You ask your other homie, what you gonna do? Man, I'm gonna be on punishment, man. I went ahead and did this. And the last dude who don't want to talk, he knew he was going to get a whooping when he got home for his grades, and it wasn't worth all the talking about. I believe the Giants are the third kid. I think
they're reflecting upon the fact that grade-wise, when this all said and done, they're going to get their ass whooped by their fans. Their fans going to kill them. Like, what are you doing?
I always felt like, okay, they took Daniel Jones, relatively actually very unknown dude out of Duke. Everybody's going back. He's this, he's that, but we love the way he did this and all that. And I still feel like there's a reason why he was relatively unknown. And I'm not going to say he's trash. I'm not going to give him trash status, but he's definitely not shown you anything to get rewarded.
82 million guaranteed. A lot of his draft, the draft analysis and the explanation was about his athleticism. And I thought what was very telling is they ran like some form of a zone read. He's in the open field. He just falls at the 2-yard line. After showing just how fast he is, he falls at the 2-yard line. And that's what I think the Giants have done. They had an open opportunity, a touchdown, in the sense that he hadn't played his way into a big contract. Yes, he's your quarterback. Yes, you want him to know that you believe in him. But there are ways to do that to also incentivize him to finally live up to the potential, to finally stay healthy and lead his team. And what do? You pay him prematurely and you fall at the 2-yard line. And I think for me, I'm giving the Giants a C- on this at best, maybe a D. What are you giving them grade-wise on this decision, Big Flow Show?
A whooping. A W. They get a whooping. As far as I'm concerned.
ETP, grade-wise, what do the Giants get?
I'll give them an incomplete. There's another New York team. There's another New York team that you were criticizing for a big free agency signing and that they weren't going to do anything, but different sport. They signed Jalen Brunson, and it was a laughing stock at the time, but now there's a chance that they may be a 4 seed and could go relatively deep into the playoffs, or they could just turn back into the Knicks. But I'm going to say TBD, but there's nothing that justifies, like you guys are saying, there's nothing that justifies the contract at the moment, but it's not about what you are worth. It's about what you can negotiate.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. I like that. My man Devon Jackson, thank you. He weighs in. He says he gives the Giants a D on signing Jones. We ask others to weigh in. What do you give them? What is their grade? Because today is report card day. In terms of the Saints and them deciding that Derek Carr is their guy, 150 million over 4 years, 100 million guaranteed, 30 basically million up front. What are we giving the Saints? The Saints have been struggling to find the answer. And I know, they have a first ballot Hall of Famer to replace. That's never easy to do. Never. Shout out to Drew Brees. Right? Shout out to Drew Brees. Right? But when you bring in Jameis Winston to replace the Drew Brees, forget the on the field stuff. It's the off the field stuff, the antics. The bridge is a little too wide.
Like you ain't never stolen no crab legs.
Right? Famous last words. So honestly, Derek Carr should be thanking Jameis Winston for the assist. They just wanted to get to some form of stability. They just wanted to get back at least in the classroom. They felt like they didn't want to be in the portables watching people lick windows and flick everybody off on the back of the bus. That was Jameis Winston as your quarterback. So they wanted to get to some semblance of normalcy. So Derek Carr should be thanking Jameis Winston. But 100 million guaranteed. 100 million guaranteed. Now we got a very, very robust sample set of what we could expect out of Derek Carr. We could expect some regular season statistical performances, but Derek Carr has been unable to lead a locker room. Derek Carr is unable to sustain a playoff run. And that Derek Carr has got 100 million guaranteed. Starting with you on this one, Big Flo Show. The Saints finally got their guy, and they paid 100 million guaranteed to get him. What do we give the Saints? What you grading them?
They're definitely on punishment. I mean, here's the thing. You're talking to a man that wasn't on the team, right? He's just out there. His other team just told him, go ahead, right?
Yeah. Hit the road, Jack. And
so
don't you come
so he
back.
had 3,500 yards last year, 24 touchdowns over 14 interceptions. So he did a lot better than your boy Daniel Jones did. 55 QBR rating. He's 63 and 79 career. I think that's what he said. I switched off the screen. But anyway, did you have to? That's my question. Did you have to? I mean, he didn't have a job.
Well, I think they felt as though the urgency was Derek Carr was also mentioned and being considered by the New York Jets. And I think they felt the pressure of timing where other teams didn't have the same sense of urgency with timing. Again, when you look in the back of the class, and you got Jameis Winston back there, picking his nose, throwing paper airplanes, it changes your urgency. It changes your urgency. Like, I'm gonna go with that guy. Nah, that can't be my star pupil. It changes your urgency.
I guess to me, it looks like I'm starting to expect your boy to get picked up now. I'm starting to expect Lamar Jackson to get picked up. When I'm seeing these contracts and what the market's at, I think he's gonna be like, look what your boy got. Look at these dudes who obviously he's coming off of an injury, but look at what he's giving you when he's healthy, when he's normally healthy. I don't know if maybe this is just a new market and you and the three of us just don't understand. I'm gonna see if I still got it. I'm gonna go out in the backyard tonight. Anybody want to catch balls? I'm throwing it up because look, all I got to get you is 15 touchdowns, and that's gonna give me 83 million guaranteed. Look,
guaranteed. So what you giving them? Saints, you gotta give them a grade. It's report card day.
They're on punishment. They're not getting a whooping.
They're on punishment. So they like C- in your book. F is the whooping. They like C- maybe.
Yeah, DF you get whooped for that. I'm saying C-, but it was close. It came down to the last test.
Right. All right. So you think they gave their best effort. Like, you got a C-, but that's just who you are, baby. That's who you are.
But we still not getting a PlayStation for Christmas. I mean, we need to spend this time in the books.
ETP, you look at the Saints, you look at their urgency, you look at the fact that they have dealt with some uncertainty ever since Drew Brees walked off that field. And you've got an opportunity to sign a Derek Carr. To me, I thought it was a bit rich in terms of a contract, but they got a deal done. They got their quarterback. What are you giving them? Grade-wise, report card day. Here it is. They you got to submit before a certain amount of time. You're going back and forth. You're seeing what they did. You're seeing the necessity and the need, especially when you look at Jameis Winston back there acting all wild. What do you give him? I think you're on mute, E.
You're on mute. I thought you were speechless.
I'm gonna give them somewhere between a B. If there's somewhere between a B- and a C+, I think that's what they would get. In the reason why they're even in the B conversation is because, and similar to the Giants and similar to everybody else, the salary cap increased $20 million this year. It's just crazy that amount is being. I mean, it's not crazy. It's basically, I mean, what's happening is it's being allocated towards the quarterback position. Essentially, It's not, the assumption is, it's going to spread out and there's going to be a lot more, equity throughout the positions. But really, it's just, okay, well, let's just pay the quarterback because we see that as the highest value position. So, so that's the only reason that they're not in the hard C category. But I think the reality is, regardless of Derek Carr's performance with recent performance with the Raiders, he's a consistent quarterback relatively in regards to what the league brings. There's so many offensive weapons in New Orleans that they really just need a game managing quarterback, and Derek Carr can be even more than that. So I'd say with last year's salary cap, it's a hard C. With this year's salary cap, I'll give them a C++, I guess.
Like it. I'll say
he
this,
grades
man.
on a curve. I was going straight. You had to
You went
tell me
straight.
about the curve because I was going straight with the math. My bad.
I'll say this, man, because my son, the one who inspired today's title, I told him yesterday he played everything but quarterback. I'm looking at these bums getting paid. I'm sorry, I didn't call somebody's child out their name. I'm seeing these quarterbacks getting paid. I told him, you like it or not, you're gonna learn how to throw this ball. You done played everything but quarterback. I'm gonna teach you how to throw this ball. Because they took the increased salary cap and absolutely reallocated it to one position. And that's just what the NFL is now. Very interesting times. And we're going to get to the Browns. I see somebody mention the Browns. We're going to get to the Browns. But let's so you went C-. I'm going to go with for the Saints. And again, I got a grade on a curve too. And the curve is it you've tried this exploratory journey of they had two quarterbacks trying to fill one position once Drew Brees left. What's the other guy's name? Taysom. What is that other guy's name?
Taysom Hill.
Him. Right. I'm still asking his name, and they committed 3 years to that experiment. Most science projects, when it blows up, you just move on. They kept on. Nah, man, they don't really blew up because of the temperature in the room. They kept trying.
Nope.
Same thing with my man who was back there licking windows.
Sugar Hill Gang. That's what we doing.
I'll take that. I'm telling you, man, because I'm walking into school on some nonsense today. This is not good. I'm not walking in on those.
Are you wearing an outfit to school?
Some version of it.
What's Emily's number? I need somebody to record this.
Some version of it. I want the teacher to understand when I'm coming in.
Whose uncle is this?
I'm not coming in peace. I am not coming in peace today. Anyway, see, you almost made me. I digress. I'm not coming in peace. I'm coming, showing up, saying this is unacceptable. This is how.
What kind of shoe? You have to have on hard bottom shoes though with that shirt.
I'm thinking Tim's. I'm thinking Tim's got to be
Tim's. Oh yeah, even better. Tim's. Even better. Black or we got digress.
I'm rocking Tim's. All right, so I gotta give again. Mine is on a curve just because I look at Taysom Hill. I look at Jameis Winston. And you look at how reckless those two were when considering or comparing or contrasting rather it to the previous smooth sailing you had under Drew Brees. And I'm going with a C-. I understand why they did it. I'm going to C-. I want to go with an F just because Derek Carr, to me, I picked him in fantasy for two straight years. And what I realized, is that he just ain't the guy. I know you can't base everything on fantasy, but he's just not the guy. So to know that the Saints have made it such that he's going to get $100 million guaranteed, C-. Let's hop into two other teams, because in report card day, we got to get to two other teams. Really three other teams. The first one is the New York Jets. New York Jets are basically put all of their eggs in this basket to try to get Aaron Rodgers, first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it, depending on who you ask. Some would even say the best to ever do it, on the field. Arguably off the field or whatever's missing. It's like that curl. It just didn't, because that guy only has one Super Bowl under his belt. But the Jets are all in. What do you give them? Is this the right decision from a strategy standpoint? What is their progress report, if you will? Maybe we don't give them a grade, but we got to sort of give an indication of, is this the right move? Is this the right rabbit hole to go down in order to try to get a guy after the season went to a dark room? A guy for the last 2 seasons have contemplated either moving on or retiring. Once a guy says the R word to me, I don't want that person leading my franchise. And you, again, look at the entire mix of what the Jets have going on. They've got you got a quarterback room full of no quarterbacks, but they invested a very high pick in the kid, Zach Wilson. That didn't pan out. So it seems as though, for me, as a New York Jets an analyst in this case, I'm not a fan, but I'm analyzing New York Jets and forced to give them a grade. I would say you need to be trying to be as certain as possible when you invest in this position based on what you've been doing. And for that, I'm giving them a D-. I don't want Aaron Rodgers in that saga around me. If I've got to do all of that to convince you to come play some football, go fishing, dog. What do you give the Jets? I'll start with you on that one, Big Flow Show. Aaron Rodgers, they're all in. They're doing everything. They got the cook on the flight. I don't want to throw no rumors out there, but they got some adult entertainment lined up. They got all kind of stuff. That's a joke. They got all kind of stuff lined up to encourage Aaron Rodgers to play football. Is this the right bet to make?
It's kind of a mixed bag for me, right? First, I like his ass the hell out of the NFC East, right? I like him in NFC West.
NFC, you want him out of NFC North, you mean?
What are we the NFC? What are we?
Yeah, NFC North. That's how you know you're a Bears fan. You don't even know the division. It ain't been so long since y'all won something in the division.
It's been a minute. We used to be in one of the East West or something. Anyway, long story short, I like them out of here, right? I like them out of here. On the other side, I look at the Jets and I start to question some of they're not the historians. Last time they brought in a quarterback from Green Bay, he was sending pictures of his genitals to staffers. So,
under very similar circumstances. Not alone about you gotta eliminate him. Very similar.
That kind of
like deja vu.
Yeah, don't something to see. Just not right about this.
Do this last semester.
And this man ain't even married, so he ain't got nothing to go home to. Mississippi, hide your money, man, because he's coming for you next. But on the field, I like it. I think the Jets are in a situation where they're so desperate for significance and trying to get there. And they had this other dude that you had to hide your mom. Your mom had to hide her friends from. The other guy, now you find out he's is that dude just gone or he's just no longer faith in him? They just
Zach Wilson. I don't.
Exactly.
The fact that we're not even
look over Zach Williams. First, they didn't dress him. That's why they put him on punishment. He almost got whooping status for Zach Wilson. So the grade, the GPA low, right? The GPA is low. So
up from here.
You got to try to go in hard on this test, man. You got to go all in. So maybe this is a cheating strategy that they're doing to save the grade. Not that I know nothing about cheating, but I'm just saying, like, I still think it's still Aaron Rodgers, and he still can play football. I think a lot of what hurt him in Green Bay, it's something about just the mix of him with the organization and the way they made him feel. He's real sensitive. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think if the Jets show that they want him and they go through all this, and then the receivers don't just bail the next day like they did at Green Bay,
right?
I'm gonna give it a solid B. It's still Aaron Rodgers, man. You still got a Hall of Fame quarterback that didn't leave because he got injured, that still has an opportunity. I think his retirement. I mean, look, what Tom Brady's retired, not talked about, retired, and then came back and won a Super Bowl. So let's not just get all into that R word and get too caught up. So I'm gonna give them a solid B for this.
You going solid B? All
You get
right,
to play,
I'll take
no
it.
whooping, no punishment, and you can play your game for a couple hours.
I'll take it. I kick it to you, ETP. You gotta give them a grade. We're looking at it as the Jets. They still holding on to some prospects and some hope of the next Joe Namath, I imagine. They tried it with Brett Favre. It didn't work out. Now they're trying to wear Aaron Rodgers. They are equal in the diva department. Will they be equal in terms of the letdown that a signing of Aaron Rodgers would be for the New York Jets? To be so invested, and they have such a young team, a very talented roster, but young roster, a very talented defense. I think that they've got some foundational pieces that if they get this quarterback thing right, especially now in the AFC East when it's wide open. Well, I like Buffalo. Like, I thought this was Buffalo's year. They came up short. I think the AFC East is wide open. We don't know if Tua's going to play. We just don't. Matt Jones, So the AFC East is about as wide open as it's been in a long time. They got to get it right. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is getting it right? And tell me that by way of what you would give them on their report card. What's the grade for this being the decision? Where they want to put all of their eggs in this basket, the Aaron Rodgers basket. We got to get Aaron Rodgers a sign. What do you grade that out as a strategy?
I give it. It's interesting that this Green Bay situation is playing out exactly the way that the Brett Favre situation played out. And so I think it's, in some respects, it could be a cautionary tale. In others, I think it's the right move for the Jets. You know, they have the offensive and defensive, rookies of the year. So they got a young squad. Nobody's really, highly paid relatively. I think the highest person on their roster, the highest paid person on their roster is like maybe 20 million. Mm-hmm. So they've definitely got some room to play. It's the big market. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is kind of like Kevin Durant, right? Like, as long as or Kyrie, he's like Kyrie in the sense that if he's playing, he's gonna help you win, but you just gotta hope that he actually gets on the field and plays. But I give them a B+ on it. I think it would be a good move. They need a quarterback. They need some veteran leadership. Aaron Rodgers is, our top 5 ever quarterback when it's all said and done, probably. Take the gamble. They have nothing to lose, right? Like the division's only getting stronger by the season, and you got to compete.
Right. So grade wise, what does that come out to?
I give him a B+. I give him a B+ only because the contract is so big, and they're probably going to have to give up some draft picks for it, that they're constraining their personnel decisions based on this big ass contract. Ultimately,
I respect both of you, but I just disagree. They get a flat out F minus for me.
Whooping.
I'm taking away the PS3. You don't get to go outside and play. You're off the AAU team. You're getting all of that, and the reason why is, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. This looks like the same exact movie. The only thing we haven't seen is the credits. We know how it's going to end. The Jets, get away from Aaron Rodgers. Anybody that you have to convince to come play football, right? Because you said they don't have anything to lose. I disagree. I think that they have everything to lose because they got a young, talented roster. What you don't want this young, talented roster doing is being lost in distractions, being overwhelmed by the diva that is Aaron Rodgers and the saga that has become, being distracted by whether or not he's going to play or not, show up for OTAs, whether or not he's going to retire after 3 games when he's got 3 interceptions. All of these things take away from your young, talented roster. And for me, it's like if you give me the answers to the test and you say all you got to do is study from this answer key, and then I go and bomb the test. To me, that's more egregious.
But what's more of a distraction and more volatile? A quarterback, a revolving door of the quarterback position with nobody that can actually deliver for more than a quarter or two at a time, with or somebody that's a proven champion, and you might have some sideshow distractions, but that's a variable. Like, that there's gonna be distractions on the field if you don't pick up a really talented leader quarterback, versus the possibility that maybe Aaron Rodgers simmers down. He's comfortable. He just didn't want to be in Green Bay, and that was all just theatrics to get out of there. Then he sits down in New York.
I don't know, ETP. Great question that I can't answer, and I might just be biased because I feel as though that there's so many different standards in which we operate and make these decisions on. And the standard to me is, if the quarterback is a distraction, organizations move away from them more times than not. Right? Like, and we've seen that over and over again. When I say a distraction, I think of things like, the Michael Vick thing, right? I think of things like Deshaun Watson. I think of these things, these off the field things that create a distraction for the locker room. Organizations move away from them. And then there are exceptions to the rule. And Aaron Rodgers seems to me to be the same exception to the rule that Brett Favre was. And that level of divadom, I think, has a clear path towards destruction. And so that's why I'm giving them an F-, because it feels as though you already saw it. They gave you the answers to the test. And now if you go bomb that test that you had the answers to and had 2 weeks to prepare for, as you reflect upon the last time that this happened with Aaron Rodgers, you go bomb that test. To me, that's even more egregious. I feel it shows a level of ignorance. It shows a level of unawareness. It shows a level of just naivete that you would fall for it again. And that's just my challenge with the Jets. Don't do it, man. We saw this movie. We know how it ends. It's basically the only thing different is the decade, is the actual names of the diva quarterbacks that came from Green Bay. But other than that, like, we saw it. I said the same thing about my Browns.
Brett Favre took them to the playoffs, I think he took them to 12 wins?
With a team that had at that time arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL.
I mean, they won the division. They knocked the Patriots at the time. I mean, obviously the Patriots had 11 wins that season. They didn't have Tom Brady; he was out with injury, but they had 11 wins and they didn't even make the playoffs because Brett Favre went on a tear and made them a contender of some capacity. I'm not saying that it's the right decision. I'm just saying that, like, we could say that it was a disaster, but he elevated that team in the short term at a time when the Jets had no business in a postseason conversation when the Patriots were rolling, even with Matt Castle as a backup playing for the majority of the season in that season.
I guess I'm just going to say at what expense. Because since that very short-lived success, the organization has struggled to do anything. And I look at that as one of the catalysts to their ineptitude, is that they spent what was probably the opportunity when they had the most talented defense. They spent their chip. They cashed in their chip with him. And it's just so many similarities. There's just so many similarities that I would stay clear away from Aaron Rodgers. Like, bro, whatever you're doing, God bless you. We ain't doing that.
They cashed in their chip, but like, it wasn't like it imploded the organization. And also, what's the alternative?
You don't think so? You don't remember all of the details of him?
I'm talking about there in terms of them as a team.
Oh, got it.
Like, I understand that. Yeah. The other stuff is definitely out of line and, problematic to say the least. But I just mean as a team. So at this point, you have a lot of young talent. You have a lot of promise. You're competitive in what is arguably one of, if not becoming the most competitive division in the league, take the risk. I mean, the money is the only issue. The money is really the only issue.
And it's been so long since they've been worth a shit. I mean, how long can you got to take a chance. You know what I'm saying? You got to just take a chance and say, look, man, he can come in here and we can win now. You got at some point you had as a fan, I love it. As a fan, I'm like, who cares, man? Hey, just tell them no dick pics and we're good, man. Have them come in here, you know what I'm saying? Put some contract stuff around it.
Right.
That
seems like a pretty fair standard. If that's all that you're saying.
Man, you know what I'm saying? Like at some point, man, the team,
I don't know,
got
man.
some promise over there. They have.
I'm not loving it. I'm gonna be honest. I ain't loving it. I feel like, man, we've seen this, man. The Titanic is sinking, and we still up there. The band's still playing. You still up there on the damn violin or playing the flute, and you see this damn Titanic is sinking. And I say it's sinking only because this dude over the last 2 off seasons has been the most distracting, melodramatic story other than Tom Brady every single off season. So and now you're going to take that and put it in your young locker room? Hell no, don't do it.
What should they do instead? What's the alternative?
I think they should have made a big push for, oddly enough, it attaches it back to Derek Carr. I think they should have made a big push to Derek Carr. I think what Seattle showed us with Geno Smith, and let's celebrate that too. Shout out to Geno Smith, man. Shout out to Geno Smith. Got paid, baby. That is an American success story. Get him, Geno.
Actually didn't give that enough love, to be honest.
And they still might draft a quarterback.
They might.
I don't care. He got his
You
paper,
weren't supposed to say that.
He still got his paper, though. Geno, that is some serious. Like, how old is Geno? About 39? 40?
Nah, he ain't that old. Geno's probably
Geno been
30,
in the league
34.
since, though.
Yeah, he's been probably about 34. I would guess about 34.
But he still got miles on him. He hasn't,
He got fresh legs. Fresh
legs.
No concussions. Never been in protocol.
They're gonna mess around, and that team is good.
There's a whole lot of tread on the tires.
They're good from a salary cap.
Like a lot of people would have just picked up the headset. So let me start coaching.
All right, so let me ask you this, man, because we'll end here because all of this.
Let's go back to quickly. You're saying Derek Carr. What is it? 4 years, $150 million versus Aaron Rodgers. What's left on his contract?
It's like 32.
3 years, $150 million.
Something like that. I'm trying to look for it now.
You're older than Derek Carr, which is crazy.
I'm trying to look up for it now. But Derek Carr's in the prime of his career with something to prove. Aaron Rodgers is in the twilight. Might have been in the twilight 2 years ago.
They get 2-3 good years out of them. They're happy. They don't care.
2-3 good years. That's the same thing that Green Bay been trying to get for the last 2-3 good years. They had a chance. They're the best team really in NFC, and he folded. He don't
want to win for them. He doesn't want to win for them. As long as he beats the Bears twice, he's fat. He's happy. He doesn't want to win.
Oh boy, I
want his ass out of the North.
Here's where
Take his ass. Thank you, Jets. Hey, what you want on your books, Jets? I'll have to send you some money. I'm tired of him. I'm tired of Aaron Rodgers.
I get that.
Now,
as a Bears fan, respect. Huh? You know, I respect it as a Bears fan, but I don't know, man. Look, it just seems to me.
Work out.
So what are we going to give so this all brings us to 2 different scenarios, and we got to give them a grade. What do we grade the Baltimore Ravens? The Baltimore Ravens creating this all of that was a lead up to this moment. The Baltimore Ravens in this non-exclusive franchise tag, right? So the team can either match it, the team being Baltimore can either match it and he stays, or if they decide not to match it, the team that has presented this new offer, right, has to not only give him the money that they offer that was too big for Baltimore to match, but also give them 2 first-round draft picks. So there have been the free market economist, and the Ball Hog Sports Talk was sports, business, and entertainment collide. I love the fact that you have heard these fake economists come to the sports conversations over the last several days and say this is just the Baltimore Ravens doing the best thing and letting the market decide. Let the market decide Lamar Jackson's value. And I would have bought that. I would have bought that had it not been for 5 teams coming out right after this Lamar Jackson news. There were 5 teams that came out, and they wanted you to know, they made it very clear that they were not interested and Lamar Jackson. And those teams being so transparent about not being interested in Lamar Jackson had me second guessing whether or not this concept of free market economy and allowing the market to decide value is true. These 5 teams within 24 hours, which is uncustomary, being so vocal about not being interested in a man that had just gotten this non-exclusive tag less than 24 hours prior to that, that's not customary. But those teams being in that position and disclosing that has a lot of these pundits, a lot of these conspiracy theories saying and using the word that we use with Cap, that we use several times. Ryan Clark has said it, and several others have said it, that this is a prime example of collusion. And when I went through and we graded each one of those previous quarterbacks, all 3 happened to be white. All 3 happened to be, in terms of performance, well, 2 of the 3. I would put, from a ranking standpoint, under Lamar Jackson. Aaron Rodgers still better than Lamar Jackson. I'll say that, right? But now you got the Baltimore Ravens taking the risk and letting the market decide what he's worth. And it connects to, but it's different from Deshaun Watson. We know Deshaun Watson got $230 million guaranteed. And this concept of collusion is the owners are trying to get out in front of what is coming. There's this imminent threat of guaranteed contracts, that there's one position that seems to hold on to this concept of guaranteed contract. It's the quarterback position. You got this outlier contract that has now changed the market, $230 million guaranteed in Deshaun Watson. And now we're at this point where it seems as though the conspiracy theorists might not be too out in left field with this theory that the NFL owners are colluding to make sure that they correct the market, which is different from a free market economy. Because if the owners have some collusion going on and these behind the scenes, off the table conversations that are happening, that's not free market economy, right? And so we stop here with the free agent conversation, and everybody we talked about, and I would even say Aaron Rodgers himself. Yes, he has a Super Bowl win. Yes, he has MVPs, but Aaron Rodgers has been underwhelming when it comes to GOAT conversations for one very specific category. And that's winning big games. But yet, even Aaron Rodgers is demanding an entire franchise's best, all of their resources, in order to sign. Lamar Jackson has done anything and everything he can do to make that franchise competitive. He is the center of the offense. He has been the face of that franchise. He has not been a distraction. He's not gotten the off the field issues. He has been, I think, patient in trying to wait for his money. What do we grade out, or how do we grade out the Baltimore Ravens? ETP, you have been going back and forth on this saga and said it didn't make sense. Both sides seem to be out of their mind. Why isn't a deal done yet? And this is where we are. How do you grade the Ravens in this decision?
So
is it true just free market economy?
Well, I mean, do we want to address the collusion, or do we want to just grade them on their decision? Because I have a legal question in regards to
Go ahead.
the collusion piece. So you have all of these media personalities that are accusing these organizations of collusion. In some way, that's like potentially defamation of character, no?
I mean, defamation possibly, but truth being the best defense. And
yeah, but if you're making accusations, like they didn't say, like, the whole, like, the kind of elementary way of like protecting yourself is always to say things and say allegedly, right?
Right. Qualifying.
But in this situation, you just have so many people that are saying it's collusion. I'm not saying it's not collusion, but I don't know that they even need to talk about it and collude for them to all be operating in the same way, because
and there's levels of collusion. There are levels of collusion. Some would be permissible, I would assume, but there's certain levels of, right, use the word, it's an ugly word, but the truth of the matter is there's some form of collusion in all business industries, right? You're trying to set you're trying to make sure that there are protections in place so the market doesn't get out of control. And these guaranteed contracts, because the NFLPA has put that into their collective bargaining agreement and their CBA, the guaranteed contracts means that within 2 years, a certain amount of the guarantee needs to be held in escrow. So I don't care how rich you are, taking 200 for Deshaun Watson, taking 230 million and putting it in escrow, whatever the number is, right? That's money that you can't invest. That's money that isn't available for other things. And so there are levels of collusion, some a little more permissible and understandable than others, but direct conversations about this particular contract deal, about this particular player, about this particular position in order to protect the market value with this particular negotiation is absolutely collusion. And that's what it feels like.
Well, how is it absolutely collusion? Because look, at the end of the day, let me just say, I'm an organization. I don't know what I'm doing with my roster. I'm trying to figure out. I don't want there to be, we talk about, Aaron Rodgers and distractions. As soon as somebody calls me, even if I'm thinking about it, we're not interested. Don't talk to us about it. We're moving on. And then they turn around and they sign them down the road because they didn't want to have to answer any questions to the media. They're just like, don't talk to us about it. We're out. Nobody's involved. We're out. Right. So that could be a scenario, which I can't imagine that nobody's at least thinking about throwing a contract over the wall to see how they react to it. But, they all came out and said, no, we're not interested. I think because it is the biggest topic of the off season or free agency or of this period, that I could see, and I'm not trying to say there's all types of collusion. I don't claim to believe that there's, square dealing in terms of how NFL organizations operate or the NFL overall, but I don't think there needs to actually be collusion for these things to be happening. And then to look at it from Baltimore's standpoint, I think that when I lean back towards it not being or giving plausible deniability to collusion is that they looked at the Cleveland Browns situation with Deshaun Watson. There clearly was not collusion because nobody would have made that stupid decision and given him a fully guaranteed contract, but that was the only way to get him. And the Browns did it. And now, rather than colluding and saying, don't give Deshaun Watson that deal, somebody did it. And now they're like, we can't let this happen again. We can't allow this trend to continue. And you don't have to have a conversation to see the writing on the wall to not want that to happen. And knowing you already know what Lamar Jackson is looking for in terms of his compensation. But the Ravens' hands are tied, and they did it in a way, like, I give them an A, because they're like, look, I don't claim, everybody's talking about Lamar Jackson needs an agent and all of this. Maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. I don't know the experience and the sophistication around their understanding, his team, his mother, himself, their understanding of how the business dealings work. I'm not going to sit here and downplay or degrade them because he doesn't have an agent and assume that they're just not capable. I know plenty of people that aren't agents that could probably negotiate some contracts that would run circles around actual agents. So I'm not going to sit here and use that as a metric. What I will say is, you're at a standstill. Let's see what the market has to say. If the market offers you something, then we'll at least address it. But when according to reports, you're $100 million apart on a contract, there's no reason. They didn't part ways with him. They didn't trade him. They didn't lock him up. in terms of his contract, they said, we're going to tag you, which means you're going to get at least whatever, $30 million this year. But let's see what the market says. If you think you're worth more, the market, like, it doesn't matter what your house appraises for or how much you're taxed at. It's how much somebody's going to come in here.
Come on, man. We just talked about Daniel Jones going to get $40 million this year. We just talked about Daniel Jones got $82 million guaranteed. Derek Carr going to get $40 million this year.
And he's talking way higher numbers.
I know, but what I'm saying is this, bro. It's like, it's just, and I get it. And there have been several people that agree with you and said that the Ravens are doing it the right way. They would be doing it the right way if, and here's the big if over generations of negotiating that position, the quarterback position, when you got your quarterback and they go out there and do what you need them to do, and they lead your franchise as the face of the organization, and you build a whole offense around them, this isn't customary for them to be like, let's just take the risk and see what happens. And people saying, it's his style of play. He's been injured over the last several years. Hell with that, man. That's more reason to make sure you get your bread. Kyler Murray got paid. Are we serious? Deshaun Watson, after allegedly, because he was never found guilty in the criminal court of law, allegedly being inappropriate with not one, not two, but several masseuses. In the hood, we pronounce that masseuses. He was inappropriate with a whole bunch of masseuses and still got $230 million guarantee.
Right,
so
but
to me, that's already the market saying what it is that this law-abiding, relatively healthy when it comes to the number of games that he played, significantly successful when it comes to his production, going out there risking life and limb, that has been the face of your organization and your franchise that you built your offense around. The market has already said what he's worth.
But the market, no, but that's the issue. The Browns have said what he's worth, but the market is not agreeing that that's the number. And really, for Lamar Jackson, according to what we are being told or what information is coming out, the start of the conversation for Lamar Jackson is Deshaun Watson, right? Like, that's the start of it. And the rest of the league, if you're saying the market is Deshaun Watson, then Daniel Jones should have a fully guaranteed contract. Derek Carr should have a fully guaranteed contract, because it's not even about
they're knockoffs.
The numbers.
They're worse. They aren't as good a player.
I'm not talking about their value. I'm talking about if the market is setting the mechanics, right, then you could pay them $100 million as opposed to $230, but the expectation is the market says that you need to give guaranteed money to a quarterback because of what happened with the Browns. So we know that the market is not determining outright what the value, like the Browns.
I think that
the Browns contract with Deshaun Watson is not the market setting. It has changed the market, but it did not set the market. It did not create a situation where, okay, conversations start at fully guaranteed contracts.
No, I agree with you in that regard, but I will also say that same rationale says to me that that's the only reason you guarantee a good portion of that $150 million. Derek Carr got $100 million of that guaranteed. And Derek Carr ain't done nothing, in my opinion. This is me saying that. That's not, obviously the Saints disagree, but he ain't done nothing. He got $150 million guaranteed. So that to me is tied back to Deshaun Watson. I just think that so for me, I'm giving the Ravens grade wise. I'm not as excited about this strategy that they are taking. I think it's too risky. I think if you wanted to do it just from a time value of money standpoint, and let's be clear, the Ravens could have had the contract done before Deshaun Watson got signed. And everybody that's celebrating the Ravens for sort of submitting to this idea that it's a free market economy and the market will be determined by whether or not someone exceeds what we're willing to pay in this non-exclusive franchise tag. We're celebrating that, and we're ignoring the fact that we only got here because the Ravens were slow in getting the deal done. The Ravens and Lamar, I don't know what the negotiations look like, but Deshaun Watson's contract shouldn't even be mentioned in Lamar Jackson's negotiation because the deal should have already been done.
Yeah,
That
we
was
can go back to their
MVP
first
season.
We can go back to that, and that alone, I would say I agree. But I would say in general, I mean, as far as giving the collusion, I don't really understand the motivation to collude in this situation. You have Lamar Jackson who's in the prime of his career in a competitive market. Why would the other teams help the Ravens do something when they're all trying to find quarterbacks or whatever? I think the fact of the matter is they're a little nervous, man, because the guy plays physical and he got hurt twice in the last couple of seasons. And people are like, I don't know. I don't know. I think he's a good quarterback. He obviously won the MVP, but he plays, he led the league in rushing or stuff like that. I mean, like, you got hurt twice. People get kind of nervous. But, I mean, if we're giving grades out, I think, I don't know if y'all got Chuck E. Cheese's out there. Y'all got Chuck E. Cheese pizza?
Yeah, absolutely.
We going to Chuck E. Cheese's tonight. I think
it's where the best family fights happen.
That's what I think. I think this is a Chuck E. Cheese moment for the report.
Damn, you guess that's like Chuck E. Cheese is A-.
We're celebrating. Look, at the end of the day, they probably
you give the Ravens an A-. They still ain't got their quarterback.
Here's where they are right now. Money talks, right? They're not willing to back down. I think Lamar gets an F because I think he should have an agent, and I do think something would be different if he had an agent. But I think when you represent yourself,
yeah, they need to sign for some bullshit. Go ahead.
I don't think they would. I mean, he could have.
Gary Sheffield was his own agent.
Go hire Deshaun Watson agent and see what can happen. But I just think you can never really negotiate for yourself the same way because it gets too emotional too quickly, and you start throwing different things out, and it's just it becomes too much chest beating. That's one of my things. You got to let somebody else have that conversation for you, and everything else you have agents, whatever. I'm done with that part. However, I think it's it's Showbiz Pizza. It's Chuck E. Cheese's pizza because they put it out there. If the market says, hey, we think this dude is worth $40 million a year, right? Which obviously we think he is because we just mentioned the other two bums that are getting $40 million a year. Then they can always come back and say, fine, we're going to sign you. And then we could just boom, and then they win. He'll get over it, right? Mm-hmm. If they don't, then at least get 2 first-round draft picks for him. He's coming off of an injury right now. I don't know what's too severe, but trying to trade him right now, they're kind of in a weird position because there's only 1 year left on the contract. So who's going to give you 2 first-round draft picks in the free market right now? They're not negotiating. But when the league says, if you want to lock Lamar Jackson up, you have to give me 2 first-round draft picks, at least they're getting some for him. They're going to have to worry about getting booed and people throwing rotten tomatoes at them when the owners come out to the game. People are mad they let them leave. But at least there's some trade opportunity there. And then they can go back, and if they want to pay him all that bread because the market says they want to pay him more, then they can go do that. So they're in a situation where they don't have that much to lose.
I hope it works out because it's like
I kind of hope it doesn't work out in some ways because I do wish they would have paid him. But right now, the way they're handling the current situation that they're in, I had to give them Chuck E. Cheese.
I think that they're doing a disservice. And you said in terms of why would they be helping the Ravens in terms of setting the market? I don't think that these teams look at it as helping the Ravens. The collusion is to protect the market from allowing quarterbacks to have all the leverage. And so that's really what it's about. It's not about them helping the Ravens. But I would say this, it's like,
but they could take him and not give him that kind of money. The next team could take him and not give him that kind of money. They don't have to. They can just offer him $1 more than he's getting right now if they want to. They can go back and
you
forth.
You got to be careful though, man, because here's my thing. Because on social media now, there's this. I follow Gilly, $1 million worth of game. Him and his cousin, they're funny to me, but he's got this thing on his page now called the Michael B. Challenge. And the Michael B. Challenge on Gilly's page is this. For fellas, we're supposed to say in front of our woman, hey, babe, and record it. Can you believe that they voted Michael B. Jordan as the sexiest man alive? And if your significant other doesn't respond with something like, oh, man, I can't believe that. And you say, why? She's supposed to say, if your house is in order, something to the effect of, because you're the sexiest man alive. Whether or not they believe it, lying to you, but that just means you got a woman that's saying you can't. And this is the Michael B. Jordan. Why do I bring that up here? That's essentially what the Ravens are doing. It's like this whole Michael B. Challenge sort of thing. They're putting it out there to this market just to see how attractive Lamar is. But what message does that send to Lamar? You are fracturing the relationship that is most vital to you taking this opportunity with this somewhat young roster, but promising roster in the prime of your quarterback's career and you are potentially squandering it for now going on 3 years of back and forth BS. Pay the man the money that he's earned and move on. If you'd have done it in a timely fashion, Deshaun Watson wouldn't be mentioned.
But
We're only mentioning Deshaun Watson because the Ravens didn't get the deal done.
I mean, but also in fairness, and like I'm all for, you know, player empowerment and all that, but in fairness, he shut down negotiations. He's like, I'm in season. We're not talking about this. And he did that for 2 seasons. So like, what do you do as the organization? Like, I don't disagree that they should pay him, but like in a negotiation, that's what it is. It's a negotiation. It's not it's not a ransom note and say pay this or else.
It should be. All right, look, so what are you grading them out? Are you my man Big Flo Show gave him an A- taking the Chuck E. Cheese from that greasy pizza just so cousins can fight. What are you grading out the Baltimore Ravens, ETP?
Yeah, I gave him an A for what they're dealing with as far as what we know, because this is if you lose them, at least you get some draft stock. Like at least you get that, right? 2 first rounders is nothing to sneeze at, especially if it's this year. It's a quarterback heavy draft. That's an option for you. Like
right.
It's the only thing they could do. It just sounds like the only argument for him having an agent that I see, I mean, definitely agree with Big Flo in terms of having someone negotiate, you know, more objectively and more, you know, less emotionally and connected on your behalf is already an advantage, but also just in the sense that they can handle that while you're focused on other things. Like if you're too close to it, that's why he shut down I'm assuming that's why he shut down negotiations in the season. It's like, I'm not allowing this. I need to focus on the game.
Right.
But with an agent, you can be like, I'll start having these conversations. I'll get them to a point. I'll have 50 conversations with them throughout the season and won't even talk to you about it. It will make great progress. And then as soon as we get eliminated in the playoffs or as soon as you're done for the season, we sit down at the Pro Bowl or whatever and say, this is the offer that we have. Let's start negotiating because I've now presented this to you. That's the only perspective that I have on that. But like ultimately, when you say they should just pay them, like you're basically saying they should have offered them $250 over 4 guaranteed.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is,
or whatever he wanted. And we don't even know what he wants exactly.
But they were saying at one point, man, that they were, like you said, $100 million apart. At some point, like, I know they're not just making up pie in the sky numbers. That means that we're not even in the same conversation. And what I'll say is this, because I told you I don't like it. I'll give them a D+, and the plus is just because it might work out for them. But I'll give an F, an absolute F, to Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, Miami Dolphins, the Washington Commanders, and Las Vegas Raiders, the 5 teams that within 24 hours of the Baltimore Ravens giving him this non-exclusive tag, that come out and say publicly that they are not interested in Lamar Jackson. Of all of them, maybe I understand the Miami Dolphins because again,
said he didn't have any sexual relations with that woman whatsoever. Stop believing that shit. Who cares? That means nothing that they said that. Nothing. Zero.
But it does. It
not
does
even
when it comes to the market. And this is what the whole conversation comes back to.
And get your ass to working. Yeah. Call his people. I'm not interested. What Lamar say? We're not interested at all. Tell everybody we're not interested. So maybe they all say, fuck them.
Some of that is posturing. I agree.
If there's no offer, if there's 0 offers at all, what they say is whatever. If there's no offers by the time you get to training camp, then it's a reasonable assumption or theory or hypothesis, but it's still, who knows? Look, I mean, it's like racism. You don't really know if it's true or not.
Well, we're going to hop into that. But because a lot of this happened at the NFL Combine. Like, that's when you have every team and their front offices there. I'll just say there were some winners and losers in the Combine. I'm literally just going to try to look at some of the winners and losers, and then we're going to move on because you mentioned racism. And I want to get to, there are some questions about how much race plays into the Lamar Jackson thing. And we won't know that because how someone perceives you is going to factor in their negotiation decisions, but they're never going to espouse, man, The discount is that he's black. The discount is he's a dual threat quarterback. The discount is that he plays hard. Aaron Rodgers is considered to play hard, and it's a different play hard when you're talking about Lamar Jackson. It's just, and maybe there's more risk inherent in the way that he plays, but Josh Allen now is a dual threat quarterback. Dual threat doesn't mean black or white anymore. It's just somehow, some way, there's a different approach when it comes to Lamar Jackson. So it is what it is. But at the combine, there were some winners and losers, and I suggest you guys all look those up. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get right into the NBA. I was going to do winners and losers. The quarterback from Florida, Anthony Richardson, is the biggest winner, I think, of the combine. But there are some other winners and losers. They said that Michael Mayer was a loser in the tight end category, not because he performed horribly, but just because all the other tight ends performed so well. But you look at the other loser is 4-4. 4-4 used to be the standard. If somebody said, "What you running a 40?" and he say 4-4, that's so he could roll. Not no more. 4-4 no more. What is it now? Big Flow Show.
I mean, look, there was 10 people that I saw, and this is the top 10 list. There could have been people who didn't make the top 10, but there was 4 people who ran 4.36, 2 4.35s, a 4.33, and then the fastest was a 4.26. I mean, I don't know. Is 4.4 is 4.3 the new 4.4? Because I remember when you got to that was the Mecca. Now we got D linemen running 4.4. Multiple D linemen ran a 4.4.
That's crazy.
So 4.3 might be the new one. I don't know. Maybe I say this until my son go to the combine.
My man Anthony Price says the other loser was Bryce Young because he didn't throw. Bryce Young also was just over 200 pounds. He would be the lightest quarterback drafted for in the first round, and I don't know for how long. But we shall see. I call that college free agency. The combine and all the interviews that they do there is really a bunch of pageantry. So maybe those 5 teams in answering the question about Lamar Jackson were just playing a role and not disclosing how they truly felt. But we're going to see if there's collusion. I think we will find out. Let's hop into NBA stuff, though, because I wanted to you mentioned racism as it pertains to some of these negotiations and this idea that race is a dark cloud, pun intended, on these negotiations. There was more of an explicit conversation when it comes to race. Kendrick Perkins had. Kendrick Perkins basically said, these are our last 2 big topics. I'm going to go this one, and then we're going to talk about Draymond Green and Dillon Brooks. For those who are keeping score, these will be the last 2 major topics. Oh my gosh. Every time we talk about basketball, some crazy person brings up the New York Knicks. Get out of here. Ain't freaking New York Knicks. Anyway, Kendrick Perkins says that 80% of the voters, and he's talking about MVP voters, those who decide on superlatives, he says that 80% of them are white. He then uses that as a reasoning behind why it has been suggested that the Joker is running away with the MVP race, which would make him a 3-time back-to-back-to-back NBA MVP. JJ Redick took issue with it. Basically said, how dare you suggest that? Kendrick Perkins doubled down and talked about the only other MVP winners that weren't in the top 10 scoring. And he pointed out Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki. And he said, what do they have in common with the Joker? And so now let's talk about it, man, this conversation. Because superlatives, and here's report card day, you hope that when the teacher gives your student, your child, a grade, that there aren't factors that are being factored in. That they don't come to the grading book with some preconceived notions. That there is some objectivity that allows them to create a grading rubric that is based on the rubric, not based on some other circumstances like Joker is white. Was Kendrick Perkins out of line? I always think it's funny when someone white like JJ Redick tells someone black not to, how to deal with and perceive race issues, and vice versa. Our perception and dealings of race are going to be unique to each other and unique to our experiences, both in sports and out of sports. So I thought that was funny. But JJ Redick was pretty offended. And ESPN has since apologized for this insinuation that race could have anything to do with MVP votes. And it's like, if it looked like a duck, walk like a duck, quack like a duck, it's a duck. You ain't finna walk around and tell me it's an eagle. I'm okay with that. We've done that historically forever, and we are very measured in how we cover race and its stain on our American history. But now it is rearing its ugly head in these conversations when it comes to how people decide and vote on superlatives like the MVP. The Joker is a certified bona fide baller. But to go back to back to back MVPs, he's in a league of his own. And they have not won a championship. And he is not in some of those categories that have been notorious for producing NBA MVPs. Other categories he does better. Rebound and block. He's categorically more impactful than other MVPs. So I'm not saying that it's end all be all that he's not, top 10, whatever the case might be. But what do we say about this Kendrick Perkins conversation? Race as it pertains to superlatives and certain decisions. I thought Steve Nash stole the MVP, at least one, if not two. Kendrick Perkins is essentially saying the same thing, that if Joker wins back to back to back, race has something to do with it. I'll start with you on the Big Flow Show.
So listening to sound bites is dangerous. So I listened to them first, but then I started listening to more and more of it. And before the show started, I listened to like a little 10-minute back and forth. Perk took offense when JJ Redick said that he said it was racist, because he said, I did not say this was racist, right? And until he made that distinction and he went out there and said it, I kind of looked at Perk, was like, come on, man. But does race play a part in the voting?
Which would make it racial, not racist. Of or pertaining to race, but not racist.
When you find out somebody went to this little SAR Catholic school in Florida and made it to the NFL in the greater Fort Lauderdale area, what do you say? He's from the illustrious St. Thomas
Greater Fort Lauderdale,
right?
Florida. Yes, indeed.
As soon as you say it, right?
Yeah.
You have a bias towards that person because they went there. You're pulling for them because they went there, right?
Absolutely.
Does that mean that you hate all the other high schools? Maybe you do. You kind of soft.
That does not mean I hate all the other high schools. I get where you're going.
My point is like, okay, last year, a high school called Glenbard West won the state championship in Chicago, in Illinois. Mm-hmm. All white people on the team. One black brother, but he didn't get much run. All white people. It probably was the most watched championship in a long time. Probably was this. Does that make all the white people in Illinois racist? Nah, but they don't ever happen, man. An all-white team never did. Howard just won conference in swimming with an all-black swimming team. I don't never watch swimming, but I was like, okay, yeah. I don't hate white people, man. But you know what? I was happy because black swim team never went and did all that stuff. 2 black quarterbacks just played in the NFL Super Bowl for the first time ever. We all celebrated it. We're all excited. All I'm saying is white people in the NBA have been down. They started to make a comeback. They're going overseas and growing them and getting them. They're making a comeback. So to think it doesn't impact these 80% writers to think that there's a white dude to see if they can give him the nod is silly, because that's human nature, is that you're going to pull for the ones, all things being equal. None of these people are related to anyone in the NBA. All things being equal, if they can have a chance to every once in a while give it to a white dude, they're going to do it. I don't think that makes them racist.
I don't think so either. It makes it racial, but Big Flow Show. It makes you
human. At the end of the day, look, man, LeBron James is supposed to have won the MVP every year. We all know that. And everything else has been a fucking crime. I want to throw up. LeBron, shut up. Talking. LeBron James is supposed to have been there. He's supposed to have been the MVP the whole time. So every time we're doing this, we masquerading anyway. But I'm just saying, like, what Perk said is true, but it almost kind of doesn't even need to be talked about, because it's like, I don't want to say,
but it's the third one. He's talking about it because it's the third one. I agree with your sentiment.
Let the first 2 go by, and now he's like, all right, man,
like it's the third one.
Now we start to do this and do that.
I would argue
I don't
that
think
Embiid
Perk was crazy.
I thought Embiid should have won last year. Embiid should have won last year, and he didn't. But you can understand why. So I think what Perk is saying is like, all right, come on now, like, what's up? And the Steve Nash one was bullshit. with a Glock and a ski mask. He stole the MVP from Kobe Bryant. Point blank.
So, I mean, that just happened. I mean, so like you said, Greek, my man Bibb says, Greek just won 2. So now, I mean, are the Riders, are they foreign? Now we got too many foreigners winning.
He won 2, and the year that he won, he also won a freaking championship.
He won a championship. I get it. I'm just saying that, do I think there's a racial bias in it? Yes. Do I think that's racist? No. Do I think that we all have biases that make us pull for those that have some sort of familiarity to either being from our high school, our state, our race, our national? Let them be Haitian. Shit. Let that dude be Haitian. See what I start talking about here. So I think there's a fine line. But Perk took offense when JJ said that you're saying it's racist. He's like, nah, I'm not saying that.
Think about what you just said, though, Big Flow Show. And I agree with you, that's called being human. But if I combine that reality, that being human and having bias or being favorable to someone from my high school, from my community, if I add that reality of being human, right, and, sort of accepting the fact that white guys have been on the down when it comes to the NBA. They are a minority in the NBA in terms of overall numbers. If I combine that with 80% of the writers are white, while it's not racist, it does become unfair.
That's a bigger topic. 80% of the writers, the fact that it's up to the writers and 80% of the writers are white, when you're talking about a league that's mostly black, I think that's a bigger issue. I think that, when we talked about a few weeks ago, we talked about with the football, the NFL commissioner, the guy got called out for the amount of writers covering the NFL being right. I think those are bigger issues because they give too much power. When you look at some of the major league sports, all the writers have I know it's at least in baseball, the writers are the ones that give you the MVP or the Hall of Fame and all those type of things. Like they get a little too much power, and because they have too much power, I think they should probably be.
But that's not going to change. But think about that.
That's not going to change. You're right. That's not going to change.
Every time
that issue is separate from the issue at hand because I got one vote and I'm voting. I'm not voting for the 80% and the 20%. And I'm not thinking about all that. I'm voting for who I want to vote for. And they're like, hell yeah.
But it's math. Big Flo. If a large number of that 80% of white writers has what I would call, you got a discount factor or, some bonus quality, and we're saying that human nature, seeing this amazing player, let's be clear, Joker is a baller. Joker's a baller, but this amazing player that happens to be white gives him an inch of an advantage, and you add that up, every inch with 80% being added together means that it is indeed unfair for someone that doesn't get that bonus for each of the writers. That's all I'm saying. And that's what Kendrick was saying.
I mean, there's a reason why the Senate and we try to get a Senate majority. You try to get the House majority. You try to work that thing to get the majority because you realize most things are going to go in your favor. So I think from that standpoint, either the criteria should change. Maybe the players, I still don't understand why the players don't have votes in the MVP. Like that's really what matters. What your peers think. Yeah. Like the All-Pro for football. It's like what your peers think, not what not what people who are biased and have all kinds. I mean, because if you see the way KD never brushes his hair, he's not going to get an MVP like with that type of hairline. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't like the media. They have too much power and control. But I think that issue is kind of separate from the fact. But again, Perk said, I'm not saying it's racist, but I'm just saying it's a bias. And I think anybody who doesn't believe that is stupid. At the end of the day, everyone is going to have some sort of a bias. They're going to lean that way. Some people are going to go are going to be, anti whatever their group is and just be like, well, that. But everyone has biases. That's just the way the world works.
On this episode of Report Card Day, I guess the question I'll throw to you, ETP, is how do we then overcome it? Because I know the conversation I'm going to have with my son today. He's bringing home some stuff I really didn't like.
The MVP of the household, of the Brown household?
No, I am. But he will.
Well, is he? Is he?
But he will be very open with his belief that the expectations are different. He believes that he's held to a different standard because the teacher just knows just how bright he is and how much of a leader he is. And there's this back and forth that to a certain degree he's right. But if we know that, then how do we make sure that there's objective grading, right, whether it be the report card or when it comes to MVP? And does objectiveness or lack thereof need to be a part of the vote? I'll go to you on an ETP, because if we're saying that Kendrick didn't say anything wrong and wasn't offensive to us, and we agree that there's some bias that goes into any decision, any vote, what do we need to do to make it right? Because I think Joker absolutely deserved the first one. And I feel just as strong about him absolutely not deserving the second one. And now, because of injury, and we'll get to some of the injuries, a lot of it is more because of the injury situation with some of our megastars in the NBA. But now they're saying the Joker's running away with the third one. Does there need to be objectivity? How do we put some sort of framework in it that we don't have something like this? And the Joker is an example. To me, Steve Nash is a much better example. 2 back-to-back? What say you, ETP?
So I think the thing you said, it's really, I think, unfair or inaccurate to make the comparison of Jokic and Steve Nash. I think the Steve Nash piece of, you had Shaq, you had Kobe, that was very questionable. In this scenario, I mean, ultimately, the biggest victim of all this is Joel Embiid, who might not even be remembered after he retires because of how unsung he has been and how well he's performed. We'll see what they do in the postseason.
He should have won last one.
But I think, I mean, so I look at it from the perspective of, I mean, one, they're the 1 seed in the West. They don't have the best record in the league. I mean, ironically, we could say he should have won it last year. He should have won it the year before. But in none of these 3 years would anybody, I would think, say that he's the best player in the league, right? Like, I think that's a pretty
Joker or
Jokic.
Okay.
Like, nobody's saying that he's the best player currently in the league. He's probably not even top 5, right? Like, he was second to last pick in the All-Star game for the starters. But I think what he's doing is so unique that, I mean, he's averaging a triple-double as a center, and he's a foreigner. Like, there's just all these different things that come into play where I think there's bias in the sense of he's doing things that you don't expect a player to do based on his profile. Race may play into it, may not. Who knows? I would definitely not hang my hat on that. But I think the issue is, not the issue, but I think what's happening with the bias is like, I've never seen a 7-footer command an offense in every facet of the game in the way that he's doing. And also, by the way, they're not the 6th seed. They're not the 7th seed. He's doing it like Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double, became
They were the 6th
MVP.
seed last year. They were the 6th seed last year when he won.
I understand that. There was a lot of injuries. But what I'm saying is right now. So right now, I can't say that he's not at least in the conversation. We won't know, right? Like, the idea of him winning it 3 years in a row as a 6th seed and all that, like, we can talk about the noise and the inaccuracy of the past couple years. I think it's just harder because he keeps getting better. So you already set the precedent by giving him the MVP, and then you're like, damn, but he's better than he was last year. Give it to him again. Damn, okay, now he's got a full roster with him, and they're the 1 seed, and he's also gotten better, and he's averaging a triple-double. And so he's doing things at his position based on his profile that is unheard of, never been seen before. Like, Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double for the season, and we were like, we'll never see that again. Before, we said that we would never see it before Russell Westbrook did it. It's been like 8 years, and you got a 7-footer doing it. So it's really hard to even talk about a trending racial bias, but more so about there's some type of bias happening in here where for him to win it 3 years in a row, and I would guarantee you could poll as many people as you want, at least 90% of them will not say that he's the best player in the league any of those 3 years. Like, he's not the best player in the league, but he keeps winning the MVP, maybe because he has the best season. But Giannis is a perennial MVP candidate, perennial 1 seed, perennial deep in the playoffs. Like Jokic hasn't won anything, and I can't even say whether it's racism or it's bias because I don't watch enough of the regular season, and then he doesn't have enough of a sample size in the postseason because they get eliminated.
Who is this MVP you speak of? Yeah. By the time I turn it on the playoffs, this MVP you speak of is nowhere to be found.
He's resting for next season, so he can get him another.
Look, there's always been, I think, an undercurrent of politics when it comes to the MVP. He won this year. But for the two examples that come to mind to me, Steve Nash, politically and statistically, there's no way that man should have won 2 back-to-back MVPs, period. Right? Because he won the first one. All right, cool, let's move on. And then the other example is Jokic. The Joker, I mean, Embiid's got to win one of them. He didn't have an MVP. They both are big men. He was doing something that was remarkable in the midst of the team being ripped apart and put back together. He was indeed, to me, the most valuable. He had a late injury, but it wasn't even you're talking about a few games, and yet the Joker still pulled it out. So, all in all, man, our grade on the process itself, biases included, I think we probably got it as good as we're going to get it. So I would give it a B+. But it seems as though people should have a very strong rationale and express why they didn't vote for other people. And I hope that bias doesn't lead to some of the same issues that we have across America and other areas. I give it a B+.
Let me just also put into context. And now we're talking about bias, but like Kobe should have probably won that MVP, but also Kobe, just to put it into context, Kobe was like a year and a half, 2 years off of potentially going to prison for rape. And he lost all his sponsors. He was no longer the face of the NBA. So the idea that the NBA would allow him to maintain a position at that time to represent the league, that's a business decision.
That's my
it's
problem.
It's not objective. It's biased. Right. Is it racism? Right. No.
That's my problem.
Not completely.
You gotta have the writers have some. You gotta have. I mean, you can't do the fans anymore. I mean, because it's like too much of a popularity contest with the big cities and the big market teams. But like, I just like the idea of the players. Don't you think?
Leave it to the players. So, what do you grade the process now? Then, as it stands, MVP process, biases or not?
The Joker. It's a joke. It's everyone's biased. Come on, everyone's biased.
Give it a grade. Grade the process. Overall, what do you grade the process? This is how we get it done. This is how it's done. C-. ETP, what do you grade the process? Because if you say C-, then I think you agree more with Kendrick Perkins. We got to do some more about it. We don't think C- is where we should be.
I don't know that anything needs to be really done about it. What do you get the MVP is fantastic for your legacy and all that stuff, but like you're gonna go in the end. Yes, I agree with Perkins as far as the process is concerned. As far as like calling out the whole racial aspect of it, it's interesting to me just because, like, okay, you're going to go to all these – because these writers are from different cities, different places. Are we going to go there and tell them all that they need to fire – because of the MVP thing, they need to fire the person? I mean, it could be a very good writer. We're going to fire this writer and go out there and find a black – in some of these places, black people made out – you think the Utah writer, maybe a black dude applied for the job? You know what I'm saying? I don't know that we've beaten down the doors to try to be beat writers. In every market that they're doing it. So there's a lot more that
you might be on to something. I'm moving to Utah. I'm about to be
Utah. They give you a job. Say, look, man, they gotta get these MVP vote right, man. Could you give me a job? I mean, let's not minimize this role to say that like there's nothing that goes into it. So I'm not gonna go there, but it is what it is. ETP. LeBron is the damn MVP anyway. Anything else?
The hell with LeBron. ETP. Grade the process, man. What are we giving it? I went B+. Big Flow Show and C-. Grade the process, how we come to these superlatives. MVP being the one in question as it pertains to the Joker being possibly 3 back-to-back, repeat several times MVP consecutively. What say you about the process? What do you grade it out as?
I mean, I'll give it a C because it generally works because there's not as much parity in this process, like with the candidates. But when it's very close, there's always controversy. But ultimately, who should be deciding this. All awards are problematic, right? Like the decision making, either it's a Grammy or an Oscar, or it's not objective, and there's so many variables. I'll give it a C. It's not broken, but it could be better. How? I'm not sure. Even if the players vote, that's bias, right? If my teammate is amazing, I'm going to vote for my teammate. If he shouldn't be MVP,
that evens out though. We all got the same amount of people on the team, so it evens out, right?
Yeah,
potentially.
some
3 people up
won't
for
have
MVP,
candidate.
huh?
But
Maybe you can't vote
candidates.
for somebody on your team. Maybe you can't vote for somebody on your team, or you can't vote if your team is.
You might be onto something. Let's hop into some feuds,
LeBron
man,
James.
Because we got some fighting going on.
Just have it be LeBron every year.
Just be LeBron every year.
That's all. That's give it an A.
We vote for the vice MVP.
the LeBron runner-up.
Hey, you consistent.
Who gets to hand LeBron the trophy this year, huh?
I ain't mad at you. consistent. I ain't mad at you. I just need one of these teachers to be as down for my son this year.
LeBron, change his name.
Okay.
Are they white or are they black? Are they from Haiti or are they white? Because you can.
Yeah, you want some? I'm changing my
name.
If you want to win MVP,
call him the Joker, or you can call him the
LeBron
King.
James.
When you walk in there, you sit down and say, "I came here to talk to you about the King, or came in to talk about the Joker," depending on who your teacher is.
I'll say this, man, because in this report card episode, it's report card day, and one thing that always detracts away from your grades is if you are all about them hands. You always want to fight. But in sports business entertainment this week, we realize that there's some people that they just want to fight. And one particular fight stood out in the NBA because indeed it became a report card, a full assessment, a progress report. And somebody got the riot act read on them. And how dare we not bring it to you here at the Ball Hog Sports Talk. Let's bring in our what are we gonna call this? We're gonna call it a classic fight. And hear this report card before we do some analysis. Y'all check it out.
Idiot said, I don't know what Draymond does out there. He said, I don't like Draymond at all. You don't know me. I just don't like Golden State. I quite frankly wouldn't like a team that beats me all the time either. I don't like anything to do with them. Quite frankly, you were a little kid in high school watching us win championships. Should be happy that you even witnessed that. Or maybe college, but you get the point. You're a fan. Draymond talks a lot. You talk a lot now. So if you have 4 rings, sure, you talk a lot more. For All-Stars?
Let me just go ahead and I got to make sure I break this down, give it some context. And that's a perfect face for Draymond Green. Draymond Green and Dillon Brooks are going back and forth. Dillon Brooks has some things to say in some random ESPN article about Draymond Green. Draymond Green is reading the receipts literally line by line right now through this interview. Draymond was given an opportunity to respond to Dillon Brooks and the words that he, or the quotes that he was contributed or attributed to him in this interview. And Draymond declined the offer. Instead, he turned on that camera, put on the Draymond Green show, and because we are podcasters, we applaud him for using his own medium in order to get his responses out there. And so we are halfway through his responses to Dillon Brooks. And with that backdrop, let's continue.
You probably talk a bit more. Defensive Player of the Year? You for damn sure would talk more. 2 Olympic gold medals? You definitely would be talking, because that would mean you beat Team USA, and we all know how that goes. So gets away with a lot too. What exactly do I get away with? I have 15 texts, 1 less than your dumb ass. Okay, great. His game is cool. If you ever wondered why the Memphis Grizzlies is not ready to compete for a championship, look no further than this idiot right here. They're actually depending on this guy to help them win a championship. And he says his game is cool. Quite frankly, that just shows how little you know about basketball. And yet you running around talking about a dynasty? The dynasty starts after you, not with you. He plays with heart, knows the ins and outs of the defense. I want to be quite frank, I made the ins and outs of our defense.
Eesh.
I guess that's why they like him over there. I'm trying to figure out why they like you in Memphis. Or do they like you in Memphis? That's a better question. I'm not sure your teammates like you. But I can tell you why they like me over there. When you contribute in the way that I have contributed to 4 championships, they tend to like you. So
Preach.
next time you speak up on me,
Uh-huh.
you should do some fact checking.
Uh-huh.
Next time you speak up on me, you should do some soul searching. Next time you speak up on me, I hope you're in a better situation than you in now. Where the guys you play with actually enjoy playing with you because they actually think you're contributing to winning. Because it ain't happening right now, champ. You're not a champ. You're a clown. It ain't happening for you.
Wow.
On site? Is that on site or
are we fighting? Are we fighting on site? To go line by line and then intentionally say it ain't happening for you, champ. Oh, wait, you're not a champ. Yeah, we fighting. So to me, we got a report card. Is that the best fight that we have seen in the NBA all year? All the other fights on court cost you a technical foul. People are in between you breaking it up. This was the equivalent of the Malice in the Palace done articulately on his own medium, on his own time, with his own style. He used his own words in order to gobble him up. Draymond Green, when it comes to the level of pettiness in which you displayed here, sir, you get an A++. That's how you put hands on somebody without being sued. This is a much better fight than him and his own teammate, my man Jordan Poole, that got punched in his grill. This is a much better 1-2 combo. To be able to go line by line and use your own words to make you look like a complete and utter idiot is, I mean, beautiful. Now, Dillon Brooks and the Grizzlies got the best of them last night on the court, but them playing last night, the same week that they beat Golden State last night, but in the same week that they have this disagreement to then take it onto the court. I think the NBA is in perfect hands as we pass the baton from the old school guys like Draymond and the dynasty that they had in Golden State. Some might argue that it might continue one more year, but to pass the baton to a team like the Grizzlies with a guy like Dillon Brooks, we're going to get into John Morant. We're in some good hands. The fight was petty, but it was beautiful, and I give it an A+. The man went with the hands. Total takedown. Finish him. I'm giving him an A+. What you got for me, Big Flow Show?
I just say when John Morant gets back to the NBA in 2025, I hope he gets a podcast and puts the guns down, because this is a much better way to get your point across.
You don't think they're going to suspend him that long? We're going to talk about that. Nah, he's good. He's good. He's good.
He had a pistol on the team play. He's in trouble. He's in trouble. Keep it real, boy. He went to private school. Your name is Clarence, right? I can't remember what his real name is, but it's terrible.
We should have just read it instead of playing 8 Mile, because it would have made the same point. But Clarence has 2 parents. Yeah, he was the subject of that entire 8 Mile clip, and he's now doubled down and gotten even grittier, if you say.
I think what he did was fantastic. I think it's the best way. I love the fact that he wouldn't do an interview, and he said, "You want to tune in? ESPN. Come to my podcast." Why should I give you guys a view? Because you don't get paid to go on ESPN. That's just a thing you do for them, just to further come to my podcast. You know, he's already thinking about that next stage in life, right? And I like it. I love it. So
what you giving him grade wise?
He got it's an AP. That was an AP class right there. So you add a point to whatever. That's AP. Yeah. He's valedictorian. That's valedictorian.
That's valedictorian status.
He destroyed him.
He destroyed him.
Line
by line. ETP, what you give him grade wise?
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to give him a D. I'm going to give him a D. So this is my issue with it. And you mentioned it, actually. It's funny because he has every right and he's justified and, laying out his resume. Obviously, that's a huge punch and shuts a lot of people up. But he started talking about his character and that his teammates don't like him. And you just said, and Dillon Brooks mentioned it too, which I thought was like a mic drop, where he's like, he's the one getting into altercations with his teammates. So who doesn't like whose teammates? Whose teammates don't like them? Like, you can't bring that stuff up. And then you have an incident that's been documented and covered that has shown that you have problems with your teammates. So that's one. Two. The other part of it is it's an unfair fight, right? Like, Draymond Green has a deal with TNT. They showed it, NBA Countdown or Inside the NBA when they were starting, precursor to the game when the Grizzlies played the Warriors. They're showing the clip that we just showed, but then they're also showing all of these like bloopers and incidents with Dillon Brooks. And so it's like piling on where they're basically like, let's all make fun of Dillon Brooks now. Because
you thinking bullying? Oh, we got bullying. We an anti-bullying. You
because our associate has a personal problem with this guy. We're gonna produce content that supports that. Like this is basically, I mean, TNT already went through this, right? Shaq didn't fool JaVale McGee. Like this is not new territory, and that became an issue. So that's a problem because now you're just wielding this like media value and this media power to like, defame somebody in a way that's just like a personal vendetta. So that's petty. It's a like abuse of power in a lot of ways. And then after that, it's like, this is not the WWF. Like, play the game. You just went into Memphis with a full roster, except for Jonathan Kuminga, who got injured in warmups like KD. But you have a full roster. You have your championship squad. You have Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, on down the line, Looney. Memphis is without their basically 80% of their offense, and they housed you. So ultimately,
so you think they got the last laugh, and it's
not the last laugh. It's a regular season game, but like. You're giving all this chalkboard, you're putting all this bulletin board material out there, and you're making it national news, and your media partner who basically pays you through your contract to be a media personality is also piling on, and then you go into FedEx Forum and you get your ass handed to you the day of, like the day or the day after, right? So
right.
Sure, like you can roll out all your accolades and all of this. That's great, but you're not doing the job. And then also you're essentially using all of this excessive artillery to try to basically like shame somebody.
So the truth of the matter, if we looking at the fight, the fact that you took the time to do that, the fact that you took the time to go line by line, you've given a certain amount of credibility to Dillon Brooks, and therefore Dillon gets the nod.
Yeah, now people know who Dillon Brooks is. It's like MCs, you start doing diss tracks. If I'm Jay, I don't respond to certain people or I might give them a little subtle this or that. Like clearly there's an ego issue where he has to roll out his resume. Like he's not just proving to Dillon Brooks, but obviously there's some level of insecurity there. Like there's no humility. Oh, look at what I have to do. Look at what so it just makes
you give the fight a D.
I give it a D, and it's not a fight, and it shouldn't be, and it's like it's a sideshow. Play the game. But like you're talking about how much better of a player you are. You went into their home and got destroyed.
I still like it, man. I guess I'm just here for the petty. I'm giving them an A-. I'm just here for the petty. Everything you said is absolutely true. Like it is so true. And the fact that you have access to these media outfits and you are abusing that access intentionally or not, or directly or indirectly by your, the people that liaise on your behalf in these fights, your allies, if you will, says something, but still I'm here for it, man. I'm here for the petty, baby. Get him, baby. I like it.
Be bad, huh? 21 points.
Yeah, they got whooped, but he didn't get whooped in that soliloquy that he just gave on behalf of himself in defense of the Dillon Brooks comments. Let's end with this, man, because you talked about the sideshow and you talked about Memphis being without John Morant. John Morant, this situation has gotten worse, and in the same week, we now see the Rain Man, Sean Kemp. TMZ has a video of him shooting at a car. There's a story to it that seems more than the surface story that has been put out there. But I'll say this, and we said it in a serious note last week. These opportunities to create generational wealth are far and few between. So on this episode of Ball Hawk Sports Talk Report Card Day. I just hope that Sean Kemp is able to overcome what legal issues might be connected to what we saw in the video. And the same thing true as John Morant, because it's just not Sean Kemp. It's just not John Morant. You have in every state, in every big city, in every small city, in rural areas, in urban areas, in formal AAU programs, in rec programs, in places where people don't even really follow and watch basketball, they still look up to these people. And so the example that you set is one that we have to be very conscious of. And whether you like it or not, as a role model, you're essentially a guidance counselor of your own in this episode of Report Card Day. The guidance that you provide to kids a lot of time is what is unspoken, unstated. They're just watching what you do. Your actions are much louder than your words. And so we didn't get to the NBA injuries, some wild ones and weird ones. KD hurting himself in pregame, and so did Jonathan Kuminga, as ETP alluded to. We didn't get to the John Bones Jones and him possibly being the greatest of all time when it comes to mixed martial arts. He did win again UFC after, I think, a 3-year hiatus. He came back and talking about going to a different weight class now. And he's I think, been vindicated in terms of some of the questions about his career. So we didn't get to talk about that. We will be talking a lot about March Madness, so we intentionally put that on hold for now. This episode of Report Card Day started with and will end with a very personal moment of getting a report card that I thought was less than the standard and expectation that my son is capable of. But it's also something that we all can understand and associate with as parents. Our grades, what we do on a daily basis, are largely based on someone else's assessments of us. And so make sure that as we go into this weekend, because the recourse that I have has changed. You can't just go put your size. I want to put my size 14s up his ass, but that's just not what they do in 2023, because I ain't going to jail. But the stakes are no less important. Let's make sure we communicate and convey the right messages to our young people, as I have to do to my own son, and talk about the expectations, all the sacrifices being made. That's why I've embodied my inner Betty Brown to go into this meeting. I'm praying for myself, and hope you'll pray for me too, as I try to convey to him that message, that what we do in these school settings, how we represent ourselves, not only reflects your family and your upbringing, not only reflects the environment academically and educationally in terms of where you are, but it's a reflection on so many people that look like you from the places that you're from and the people that have made sacrifices on your behalf. So on Report Card Day, let's make sure. I know that the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide, we have to make sure that we prioritize going out there, being as smart as we can, working as hard as we can, getting the results that we want. And then and only then do we have the grades that are consistent with that output and that effort. You guys have a great weekend. We thank you. We ask you humbly, like we do every week, please like, please comment, please share, please tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and the podcast. The whole crew is in the building today. We had the Big Flow Show coming to you from the Middle Coast. You know who he is. And we had ETP, Ellis, the producer, coming from the East Coast. I happen to be coming from the East Coast too. I am your boy, B Brown, ESQ, aka the Ball Hawk, aka the Mouth of the South, aka Mr. Excessive Celebration, aka Barazy. This has been the Report Card Day episode of the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. And with that, we is out. Peace.